Hello and welcome to another episode of the GodisaGeek Retrocast. I'm your host Lee Garbett, and joining me is Robin Parker.
Hey, hey.
And we've got a little intro here. It doesn't really tell you too much about what the game is, but this week I can tell you that we're covering Mega Man X on the Super Nintendo. That's some good old-fashioned Capcom vintage for you there. Released in 1993, it's the almost like a SNES sequel to the very popular Mega Man series on the old Nintendo Entertainment System, but it's vastly improved above the other six prequels. Six prequels. I mean, how many series can say they have six prequels by the time they get onto the SNES? None.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, really. But it's almost kind of a reboot, isn't it? Mega Man X became its own series with its own canon eventually, and regarded separately from the other Mega Man series, but obviously at the time it was just sort of a next evolution.
It is. I mean, the whole setting is that it's many centuries in the future, and back in the days of old NES Mega Man, his creator Dr. Light created X and put him in almost like a time capsule, and he was opened centuries later by Dr. Kane, and from there he becomes tries to become sentient and think for himself, and basically just struggles to fight for everlasting peace, as is the usual thing with Mega Man games.
In typical action hero style.
It is. It's a very lengthy textual intro here.
Yeah, you can see they could have maybe livened that up a little bit with some images or something.
It is, but it's quite extensive for a SNES intro, especially for Mega Man.
I suppose so. I mean, the console wasn't known for its intros, was it?
I love how things are set in the year 20XX.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of people like to parody that nowadays, but at the time that was seen as a height of cool, wasn't it?
It really was. That's early 90s.
Generation X stuff.
Definitely.
And you're thrown right into the action there.
Yeah, you really are. This is like a prologue level of sorts, so you can just get used to controlling X. He's got your little charge beam, of course, and his rapid fire shot. There are two stages of the charge beam. If you charge it up for a little bit, it's a tiny little blue beam, but if you charge it up for longer, you get a much larger shot, which is really powerful.
Yeah, those who have played previous Mega Man games, they definitely won't be lost taking on Mega Man X. It's very similar in terms of gameplay. It's just there's obviously a lot of extras and a lot of improvements made for the SNES version. Certainly,
and while Mega Man is still unable to duck in this game, he's got plenty of other abilities which we'll see as we get along. But he's definitely more mobile than he was in previous Mega Man incarnations.
Yeah. I mean, it's just things like these wall jumps. It makes him a lot more. It's a lot more agile than you found him last time out on the NES, anyway.
Certainly, he's a very able robot this time around, and of course his abilities only improve as the game goes along, and as you start to earn some of the upgrades, which you'll see later on in this video.
Yeah, I mean that's what Mega Man sort of became all about. It was about the different upgrades, and because obviously as he's cybernetically enhanced, it was all about getting different powers and different upgrades, and that's what was really interesting about the game.
Of course. It's a very colourful game, actually, and very good looking. Not so nice bright sprites, which look fantastic on the SNES.
Yeah, I think that's what the series was always well known for on the NES. Even obviously the NES had very great graphical limitations, but even then the Mega Man games did stand out as much better sprites, much more better use of colour, more interesting character design. It was always one of the more creative games.
Certainly. Just going through this prologue. Even for a prologue area, if you're not careful, there are some places that you can slip on. That you've just seen me fall into a gap earlier, thanks to some cunningly placed enemies.
Yeah, getting the hang of the wall jump is sort of the main something you're going to need to use regularly in this game.
Definitely, the wall jump is the most versatile of X's tricks in the game, and you pretty much use it all the time.
It's great though, really, because I mean, games at this time, games were pretty unforgiving for letting you fall down holes and lose lives quickly. So having something like a wall jump really helped take a bit of that pressure off.
Certainly.
Because even sometimes when you thought you'd really messed up and fallen down into a pit, you could come back from it and recover.
Seriously, we're just battling an endless array of cars.
Yeah, bit of a strange enemy there, the cars. But you get some much more interesting level enemies, and of course the famous bosses as you go on.
Certainly, and we'll definitely see one of those bosses very, very soon. But first, we have to get past this army of cars, which just takes longer than I remember.
Almost never ending.
It is.
But it's a way to introduce you to the game, I suppose.
Yeah, get used to just slamming the fire button.
Yeah, and of course this Mega Man X did, other than being in the SNES, it did also appear as part of the Mega Man X collection, which also came out on the GameCube and PS2 and released on I think it's available on the Wii Virtual Console as well.
Yeah, this is on the Wii Virtual Console. There is a PSP port called Maverick Hunter, which is very, very good and has some nice additions. The Mega Man X collection didn't actually make it to this country. I do remember importing a copy of it, and it's not bad. It's got Mega Man X's 1 to 6, possibly.
Yeah,
I think 1 to 6. I think it is. We're just fighting a little tiny boss at the moment, Vile. This is one of those boss fights where you actually have to lose, which is quite annoying.
Weird, yeah, very weird for the time, because you wouldn't know that was what you were meant to do. You'd keep fighting as long as possible, wouldn't you?
Certainly.
It was quite a novel idea for the time.
But very annoying. I remember holding on for quite a while fighting him and not being able to damage him. So.
And then we're introduced to one of the characters who have been specially created for the Mega Man X series.
Of course, this is Zero,
who becomes a very significant character in the series in later games.
Certainly, as this series kind of draws to a close, it's Zero becomes a very pivotal character, and then goes on to get his own series, Mega Man Zero, on the Game Boy Advance. But here he is. He's a character full of mystery. You're not sure what to make of him. You know very little about him. But of course, you do later find out that he was created by Dr. Wily, the antagonist of the original Mega Man games.
Ooh, what a twist!
What a twist! Which I've just spoiled for everybody. But hey, if you haven't played these games from 20 years ago by now, it's you can't help but be spoiled.
Yeah, I think you've earned the ability to say a few spoilers.
So it's just gonna. There's a fair bit of exposition in the X series, which is something we didn't see in any of the NES titles, but there certainly is a lot of it in the SNES ones.
I mean, it makes a nice change, because a lot of games of the time would just really throw you into different levels and not have anything between levels to explain what's going on. You just appear in one level, then maybe in the snow, then you move to another level in like a desert, and you wouldn't really know why on earth you'd gone there. At least you've got a bit of story here to link things together. And
there is a lot of different environments in this game. We're about to see Chill Penguin's area. I find he's always the easiest boss to go for, especially because he can be taken down quite easily with the normal shots. Of course, like previous Mega Man games, once you kill a boss, you will earn their weapon, which is stronger against some enemies than it is others.
And that's really what the series is famous for, the unique bosses and with their different powers. And without them, the game would be a pretty bland affair, but that's really what livens up the Mega Man titles. All the different creatively named and creatively with all the different skills, these different bosses really make the title much more interesting and give it a lot of variety.
Definitely.
And then trying to work out which skills to use against the different bad guys to be most effective, which ones will actually take them down. It's added extra dimension which other games at the time didn't really consider.
Certainly, and to have that come back for the SNES version is good, because that as you say, that is what Mega Man is all about.
It's definitely the strongest. It's what you remember, isn't it? It is
great
great bosses.
And this game does have some very good bosses. Even some of the mini bosses are really good. We're just coming up to a capsule now, which is the little tubby man is Dr. Light, Mega Man's original creator. And every now and then you'll see some of these. Some of them are in sight, and some of them are actually quite well hidden. And each one of these capsules gives you a particular new ability. Everything from the dash boots, which is what we're going to get now, to improved armour, the helmet to actually headbutt blocks Mario style. And of course there is a very extra special hidden capsule which by doing a very convoluted series of steps actually unlocks the Street Fighter Hadoken, which actually can be used by using the familiar quarter circle motion, and Mega Man does utter a very cute Hadoken soundbite when it's used. And it actually it kills most enemies in like one hit, even, and the boss can be, the final boss of the game can be killed in about 2 or 3 hits with it as well. So it's very powerful.
A nice little touch for long-time fans of Capcom.
It is. I think to unlock it, you need to get all of the energy capsules in the game, unlock all the armor upgrades and everything. And I think you have to die so many times on the armored armadillo level, and then basically jump to the end of the level above the main exit, and if you die enough times there will be a special capsule that gives you that Hadoken power.
Slightly convoluted.
It is. Later games would actually also feature Street Fighter moves. The sequel to this one, Mega Man X, does actually let you find a Dragon Punch move as well. Yeah, there are. In this game there are some vehicles, these carry armors. Later games would add more carry armors than the standard one, ones that give you abilities such as being able to swim or fly. But for this game, it's just standard punching things, which you can't go wrong with.
Sort of slightly reminiscent of the Metal Slug games.
Very much so, yes.
Which obviously were from around about the same time and were very similar sort of gameplay to Mega Man, really.
Definitely. We're just approaching the first Reploid of the game, which is the name they've given the bosses. This one is Chill Penguin, who I can imagine is a penguin and uses ice. Now, if you're very skillful, you can actually kill Chill Penguin without him even firing a blast of anything. As you can imagine, it's just been a while since I've played the game. I lost a lot of my skills since then. Charged shot seems to work well with this boss as well, which is why we always pick him first.
It's just an example of how you have to sort of learn how this enemy, how the bad guy attacks, and what attacks of yours will be most useful against him. That was sort of learning that was the key to all these boss battles, knowing how to attack against them.
Certainly. And so you got frozen there, which was a big mistake. Just got to get that last little hit in there.
I mean, they weren't just your regular boss of battles. They were challenging. They made you sort of think about you had to have some tactics for beating them. It wasn't just a dodge, shoot affair.
No, of course, yeah. And obviously things would be much harder if you if you're doing the enemies in the wrong order, basically. It would make things a bit more difficult. Not impossible, but very difficult.
Yeah, you'd have to try to kind of learn that order as you went along the first few times, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and some things would make sense, like fire being effective against ice, but some would be very obscure.
Yeah, and you'd have to play a lot of the levels. You'd have to play through to kind of really see what that boss was capable of before you'd really know what he was going to be susceptible to as well.
Certainly. So I'm just going to fight Spark Mandrill. Other such bosses in this game include the amusingly named Boomer Kawanga, which is a type of beetle for those not in the know. Something worth noting about the game is that when you finish particular levels, something will change in other levels. So, example, if you fight, I try to remember the name of the other boss you fight in one of the other levels. But if you finish a particular level before this one, the lights are off, lots of these pipes are all smashed up, and you can actually get to other areas in the game.
Yeah, those games were a lot more complex in that regard, where there were a lot more hidden secrets than you found on previous type consoles. Like the NES installments of Mega Man, They might have had a few secrets, but the SNES version sort of allowed for a lot more different little touches which they could add in and different things for you to discover.
Certainly, I mean, there was a lot of collectibles in this, as well as the capsules that I mentioned earlier. There are also little heart containers that give you more health, and also some energy, kind of like energy tanks that would let you refill your energy. Just
making short work of those ostriches.
Certainly. Just going to be coming up to a mini boss.
Even the design of these mini bosses are quite interesting. I mean, a lot more thought's gone into the bad guys on this game than a lot of other shooters and side scrollers of the time.
Definitely, I mean, they're all very unique designs, very recognisable characters. You know, you see them once, and most of the time you'll remember them if you saw them again. Even for a mini boss, you know, it's very well designed.
Yeah, and even with the water effect you see there when it's moving, making use of the SNES's unique graphical capabilities at the time.
Definitely, lots of scaling events in this game, even for things such as explosions. There's some natty little effects.
Yeah, even for simple things, it just sort of showed what the SNES could do over other consoles.
Yeah, I mean, you can already see, like, from this area, there's a bit of parallax scrolling where the background scrolls it in different ways, which is something that not many systems could do. I think even the Mega Drive struggled to do that at times. Just fighting our way through this level at the moment. So I'm just going to try and grab this little heart container up here. I used to be able to do this, normally you need a particular weapon to get this, but I used to be able to grab it by doing this special wall jump, but as you can see, it's not working for me at the moment. As I say, it has been a long time since I've played this game. And, I'll give up in a second. Oh, there you go, I've got it.
Yeah, persistence paid out.
It sure does. It's like riding a bike.
Well, of course, you definitely had to be very persistent with a lot of these games.
Certainly.
Your hand wasn't held quite as much as they are nowadays.
No. Almost approaching at the end of this level, which has got this little area to finish and start with. Once again in the darkness with these annoying little firefly enemies that could very easily make you fall down a hole.
Yeah, it's an interesting use of the light and dark, and
certainly
definitely adds a bit of variety to the what might be otherwise just a bit plain sort of warehouse type levels with all these just metal panelling, but at least the light and dark. And makes it a bit more interesting.
Okay. We're just going to fight Spark Mandrill now. It's quite a tricky one, uses electricity.
Yep, it's suggested by his name. I mean, that's the interesting thing, that all the names sort of suggesting the different powers.
As you can see, with the right weapon, some enemies become a piece of cake, such as this one. It's all about getting the timing right and shooting him just at the right time so that it stops him in his tracks.
Yeah, only just that time.
Well, as Spark Mandrill explodes, I think we're going to leave you now. But thank you very much for watching this week's episode. You can see us every week, every Tuesday, in fact, on www.GodisaGeek.com. You can follow us on Twitter at the Retrocast, where you can follow up and see what we're doing and what shows are coming up and all sorts of retro-related goodness. You can catch us, if you're not doing so already, on iTunes by searching for GodisaGeek.tv. And on that feed you can see other videos such as the Dirt Sheet, our first looks, and all our other video trailers and content. That's it for this week. We will see you next week with another game and another video. Until then, goodbye.
So long.